everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand, the afternoon show. Ivan Toney, could he be on his way to Manchester United this summer, as the Manchester United hierarchy prefers Ivan Toney as an option over Benjamin Sesko? Is he near the top of the list? Is he going to be the striker that we bring in? We'll talk about that. Also, Thomas Tuchel putting himself in the shop window for the Premier League. He is not staying at Bayern Munich, despite reports that Bayern Munich was going to U-turn on the decision. Thomas Tuchel out there looking for a job at Manchester United, hoping that Erik ten Hag will part ways with Manchester United so he can swoop in there. What is the story on that? There's been lots of different reports. Are we in talks with Thomas Tuchel? Are we not in talks with Thomas Tuchel? Our understanding is that there's no talks so far with Thomas Tuchel, but that doesn't mean that talks could pick up. And would you want that to happen? Or do you think Erik ten Hag should stay? The conversation continues. Also, a little bit of news and clarification over Michael Olise, and some very interesting quotes coming out from players in the new 99 documentary that is on Amazon Prime. I'm going to give it a watch tonight. But there's a lot of interesting quotes coming out, and there's a couple I wanted to bring in showing the standards of Manchester United and how far them standards have slipped, and how I think all of the players at Manchester United should switch on that documentary tonight and look at what it means to be a Manchester United player. Of course, there's some players in that dressing room that know that. I do believe that. But I think there's a lot of people that try and find excuses. I mean, there's a lot of experts on Twitter that say that Erik ten Hag's training's too hard. That's why we've got so many injuries. Well, Ryan Giggs has been speaking about the levels of training under Sir Alex Ferguson. I think a lot of people need to wake up, smell the coffee and realise the standards have slipped, and what we're trying to do is get them back up there. And that's why Erik ten Hag needs the backing, and the club needs the backing going forward into making the standards like even just half as where they used to be. They've slipped so far down that everyone needs to open their eyes and try and get back on track. It's not going to be easy, but I think people need to stop making excuses. But anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon show. Happy Friday. I hope you're all having a lovely day so far. I'm excited because I get to talk about Ivan Toney. Not for any other reason than the fact that I think he'd be a great striker for Manchester United come the summer. If any of you have tuned into my shows beforehand, you will know that. You will have seen me talk about Ivan Toney and how good I think he could be for Manchester United. Cue the comments saying, Beth, but you wanted Onana, Beth, but you wanted Mount, Beth, but you wanted Amrabat. I can sit you down on all three of them. I honestly can. So bring on the comments and let's get going on it, and we'll talk about it. It's funny, isn't it, though? I feel like, honestly, this isn't me like having any theories whatsoever, but I feel like whenever I say that I want us to sign a player, like it ends up happening. It's strange. Like last summer, I said Onana, then I said Mount. Then, to be fair, I only spoke about Amrabat when we got linked to him, but then it started to happen. And then I spoke about Ivan Toney, and now suddenly he's top of the list for Manchester United. Am I the inside source? I'm joking, I'm absolutely not. But we'll get into it on the show. I know a lot of people wouldn't want Ivan Toney. I know a lot of people think Ivan Toney would be a brilliant signing. He's one of them figures that kind of does divide the fan base a little bit. I think Mark is unsure about him. I would absolutely love him. I saw a lot of people in the chat speaking about Ivan Toney before I went live, and a lot of you guys seemed really excited about it. Get in the comments down below what you would want. And you know what? Without even me having to tell him, producer is on form today. If anybody saw my match vlog, you'll see producer Amrabat in the studio, or Bart, as a lot of people are saying, in the studio. And he's got the poll going, Sesko, Toney or other. Get your comments in down below and get your votes in on the poll. So let's get started. We'll get started on the Ivan Toney stuff. I was going to get started on the Tuchel stuff, but we'll go in with the Ivan Toney stuff because I find this a lot more exciting. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I cannot wait for the transfer window. Mainly because I'm excited to see if INEOS will live up to the expectation. Are they going to get rid of the players that need to go? Are they going to make sure that we sell properly this summer? But also, who are they going to recruit in? How long is it going to take for them to recruit in the right sort of profiles? And what profiles are they going to go for? I'm very excited to see the transfers start to develop, and we've seen that slightly with Michael Olise. So we'll get started on the Ivan Toney stuff. So Sam C reports, our reporter here at the United Stand, who's doing a cracking job. Sam, I always trust what he says because I know how good he is, and I know how well researched the information is that he gets in because I know him personally. You'll have seen him on a show. Absolutely lovely guy. He's and he's so young as well. He's going to do amazing stuff. But he has put out a few reports this afternoon, and the first bit of the report is that the United stand understands that Ivan Toney is preferred by the hierarchy at Manchester United than Benjamin Sesko. And what do you think about this? I was absolutely buzzing when I heard this news, and it wasn't a slight on Sesko. When I say this, it's not because I don't think Sesko's good. I've said on the shows before, I think Sesko is undoubtedly a very good talent, has a lot of potential. You know, if you put him into a well-functioning side like an Arsenal, like he will probably flourish and do very, very well. Everyone's talking about Benjamin Sesko's age, 20 years old, the amount of money he's going to cost you. I think we spoke about the release clause going up to 65 million. It could even go up to 75, depending on how he does the last week of the season. Benjamin Sesko would be a good buy for a lot of clubs out there. He's got a lot of potential. He's young, and I do think he will be a very good striker. But the reason why I'm happy that the United hierarchy prefer Ivan Toney, if it is true, which, like I said, I do trust Sam with his reporting. The reason why I'm happy about that is because, for me, for what Manchester United need right now, Ivan Toney ticks the boxes. He ticks all the boxes for me. We've already got a young striker with a lot of potential that has all the attributes to be a top striker. That's Rasmus Højlund. We've already got that. We've already spent the money and invested into a young potential striker. And by the way, Rasmus, 15 goals in his debut season in a dysfunctional United side is not bad at all. It's very good, actually. And I think you can see the potential that Rasmus has got. And to aid Rasmus and to help Rasmus Højlund become the best version of himself, I don't think the right way to go about that is to get in another young striker that also, you know, will need time to adapt to the Premier League, that also would need someone experienced ahead of him, would also, you know, suffer with the same things that Rasmus Højlund suffered with in terms of this season. You know, Benjamin Sesko, if he's in the team, he's going to suffer with the fact that we've got no service if we don't address that. Getting Michael Olise will start to help that kind of start to help balance the attack. We also need to look at the way that we're playing as a team, the fullbacks. There's a lot of things that need to be done. But why would we get in the same thing that we've already got, a young potential striker? That's what Rasmus Højlund is. What Ivan Toney does, for me, it massively helps Manchester United because I think he's honestly such a good player, but I also think it massively helps Rasmus Højlund. You've got somebody in who isn't going to crumble in a United shirt. He just won't. He's got that arrogance about him. Some people find it off-putting. I think it's good for a striker at a top club to have a little bit of arrogance about them. They're not going to get fazed by the Manchester United shirt. You wouldn't think he would anyway, considering all the kind of the battles he's gone through in his career and just looking at his interviews and just looking at the type of person he is. I think he would kind of flourish having to take on the pressure of the United shirt. So you've got that. You've also got somebody who has played in the Premier League and done superbly well in the Premier League. When he was firing Pockpit last year, I don't know exactly what it was, but I swear he wasn't that many goals behind Harry Kane playing for Spurs. He was very close to Harry Kane in terms of the amount of goals that he scored. This season, obviously it's been an on and off season for him because he was out for so long, then he came back in the Brentford side, you know, after he'd been banned for a long time. So it's kind of been a little bit of a written off season for him. But Ivan Toney, when he's on form, when he's doing well, when he's playing at his best, he is a top striker. I watched him play for England this season, playing for England, and his link-up play was excellent. You could see in a side that was on his level, he was doing great things. I just think he's got everything that's needed to help Rasmus because he's got that experience. I think he's 28 years old, so he's not going to be around forever. And if you think about it, you get Ivan Toney in now, at 28 years old, you'd say he's here till what, like he's 32? That's 4 years. In 4 years' time, Rasmus Højlund's still only 25. He's been learning off Ivan Toney, who's been around the block, played in all the different leagues of English football, is an experienced striker who knows how to bully defenders, knows how to do the link-up play, is a striker that is going to help him develop. That's what we need. And then you've got Rasmus in his prime at 25 years old, having learned all them things and having years to develop to go on and be, you know, Manchester United's number 9 in his prime. And that doesn't mean if Ivan Toney comes in, Rasmus Højlund suddenly shut out. That won't happen. There'll be competition for a place. They'll be both rotating in and out of that role. You could even play them both together in different scenarios. You honestly could. So that's why I think Ivan Toney's the right person to go for. A lot of people saying, we need a link-up striker, we need a striker that's going to be able to facilitate our wingers. I also agree that sort of profile is super, super interesting. In Ivan Toney, you've got someone who can do it all. You've got an experienced striker, you've got someone who can score goals, you've got someone who can bully defenders, but you also have someone who can come in, get involved and play, link-up play, and he makes others around him better. I've seen him play with my own eyes. I've spoke to a lot of people about him. I spoke to, I can't remember what his official title was. It was a technical director of Brentford, and he was saying how much better he makes players around him. A lot of people have concerns about the attitude thing. Why would Thomas Frank give him the captain's armband if he had a bad attitude? Why would the Brentford technical director speak so highly of him if he had a bad attitude? A lot of people say maybe it's because they want to sell him. I don't think that's the case. I think it's because he's a top player, and I think in the summer, with 1 year left in his deal, somebody's going to go in there and buy him, and I do think Manchester United should be all over it for what we need currently in the team. But get in the comments what you guys think. Either or, Sesko, Toney or other. I'm going to do a little vote on here as well. So, I'm surprised at that actually. So we've got 51% with Ivan Toney, 34% with Sesko and 16% with other. I thought a lot more people would go with Benjamin Sesko because I'd seen he's been quite a bit of a fan's favourite in the chat over the last few weeks. So I'm happy with that. I'm really, really happy with that from you guys in the chat. And obviously, you can kind of understand where I'm coming from on the Ivan Toney stuff. But get your chats in, get your super chats in and let me know what you think. Patrick Lynch says, I agree that we need a more experienced striker, but we have no evidence of Toney being the type of player that will help develop a younger player who will be fighting with him for his position. Patrick, I get where you're coming from, but it's like, who do you go for then? Because if you're worried about, Toney not being able to develop Rasmus because he's fighting for his position, I honestly don't agree. And if people say, well, we need an experienced striker, but they can't be that good because we need Højlund to be able to be starting. We're Manchester United. We need the best of the best in every single position. Ivan Toney will only push Højlund to get better, work harder. I think his experience would be massively, massively valuable to help Rasmus. You need that competition. You need the best of the best in each position. You need two top-level players competing for every position at Manchester United, in my opinion. Fred's Flintstone says, if Toney really is a gambling addict like he claims, I won't go anywhere near him. Addiction doesn't go away. My father went to rehab 5 times. I'm very, very sorry to hear that, Fred. And obviously that's something that Manchester United would need to take into account, that everything that happened with the betting situation, let's be honest, he did get banned. And that is something that if you went for Toney, if Manchester United went for Toney, that would be a huge risk. Because if you went for him and then he had another situation where he got banned, there'd be so many people saying United doing the same thing again, not doing the proper due diligence in their checks. They took too much of a risk. This is on the transfer team. It is a risk going for Ivan Toney because of his history. But what I would like to say, through watching, if anyone watched his Diary of the CEO podcast that he did with Stephen Bartlett, I do think he's learned from that, and I don't think he would risk his career again, especially if you're playing for a club like Manchester United. Why would you risk ending your career like that? I just don't think he would. But also, I'm not Ivan Toney. I don't know the extent of what's gone on. So that's something that would have to be looked into, obviously, before we made that purchase. Because if there was something more serious there, that is something you'd have to avoid. But that's something that the transfer team should be looking at, and whoever is going to buy him for looking at. If we're just looking at him purely based on him as a player and in terms of his attitude around football, I think he checks both boxes for me. I mean, people don't like the arrogance. Eric Cantona had a little bit of arrogance, and I'm not comparing Toney to Cantona, but I'm just saying, you need a little bit of arrogance to be Manchester United striker. Rasmus has it a little bit. When he was shushing people the other day, I loved it. Bring it on. That's the sort of attitude you need to be scoring goals for a club like Manchester United on a regular basis. Charles, a member for 22 months, says, I want Ten Hag to stay, but if he left, Tuchel is the only manager I want. Toney is a good player, but I don't like his attitude. Sesko for me all day. Shaby1958 says, instead of Sesko, we should go for a more experienced centre forward. Well, for the people that do want Sesko, and I understand, because I honestly understand, because he is super talented. What happens if you bring Benjamin Sesko in and you're in a situation where you've got two strikers who are trying to adapt to the Premier League that don't have anyone around them to help them out. And the two players where you're having to wait on them to flourish. I mean, Rasmus is only at the start of his journey. Benjamin Sesko's only at the start of his journey. I think it makes sense to pair one young player with a lot of potential with someone of experience who is already ready to come in now. And the reason why I like Ivan Toney in the Manchester United hierarchy, probably like Toney, is because you know he can do it in the Premier League. He scored a lot of goals for Brentford in the Premier League. Like, you know he can do it. You know he can ruffle defenders' feathers. You know he's got the link-up play because you've seen it happen week in, week out. So it's, in terms of the fact of the history with the betting is a risk. In terms of him on the pitch, I don't think there's much risk in it at all. I think he'd come in and get off the mark very, very quickly. The only thing is how much is he going to cost? Who's going to be in the race? So Ivan Toney, obviously, he's got a year left on his deal, which means if Brentford want to sell him without him going on a free transfer, they need to sell him this summer realistically, because if they don't sell him this summer, he's going to run down his contract and he will go on a free next season. Brentford might be okay with that. You know, they might think we'll get another year out of him and he'll go on a free. But if they want to get some money for him, they need to sell him this summer. Now, what sort of clubs are going to be interested in him? You'd think the likes of Manchester United, as we've had confirmed through that report from Sam, are going to be looking at Ivan Toney as a potential option, especially considering we are on a budget. We're in a situation where we need a very good level striker. We need a top level striker realistically. But we need one on a slight budget, and with Toney a year left on his deal, his price is going to drop from what it usually would be. It's still going to be expensive, but the price will come down a bit. But also, what competition is going to be in for Ivan Toney? I do think, because of what's happened in terms of him getting banned previously for betting, the interest will come down a bit compared to what it would have been. Like, I think if Toney had a completely clean record, I think so many clubs would be in for him this summer. There was talks of Arsenal wanting to go for him, but they've cooled off their interest, and I think they're looking at Victor Gyökeres from Sporting. And they're also looking at Benjamin Sesko as well. Chelsea could be in the running. They're definitely going to be looking towards getting a striker in the summer. Also, I think Tottenham Hotspur could be in the running as well, to be honest with you. Spurs, for me, need a striker. Ivan Toney's someone that they'll definitely, I feel like, be looking at. So, you know, you've got competition probably from Tottenham, probably from Chelsea, who's going to be able to get his signature on the dotted line. Apparently, he used to be a Liverpool fan, which is a little bit off-putting, but as long as he's going to work hard for the club, like, that's not something that would be massively out of reach. I mean, players support different clubs all the time when they were growing up. You know, Van Dijk's got tweets out there saying, come on, Manchester United, everyone hates Liverpool. Yeah, he's, you know, won the Champions League, won the Premier League with Liverpool. Like, this sort of stuff does happen in football. So how much would he cost? I think they're going to put a big price tag on him. I think we also shot ourselves in the foot paying 60 million for Mason Mount when he had a year left on his deal last summer, because, you know, you put a price like that when a player has a year left on the deal, and other clubs are going to look at that and say, well, you were willing to pay that when he had a year left on his deal. So that's something that could bite us a little bit. Is obviously a striker, which is the most expensive position in football. But if Ivan Toney really pushes for a move and Brentford are desperate to sell, I do think you could get Ivan Toney. I think the price for Ivan Toney is going to be around from 50 to 60 million pounds, which in the grand scheme of things, for a striker that's going to come in, start scoring goals straight away, and I think he's going to have a seamless transition, and is, for me, exactly what you need, is not a bad price at all. It's just thinking about the money that we're going to spend in other positions, but we're going to have to spend that amount of money on a striker. If you're looking at getting Benjamin Sesko in, that's already 65 or 75 million euros as well. So it's going to be similar sort of price tags for each player. People will be saying, yeah, but with Sesko you're getting a better bang for your buck because you've got the investment. He's only 20 years old. Ivan Toney's 28. Yeah, but Ivan Toney's got the Premier League experience over him as well, and it's what you want. It's what you want in a striker. Do you want the Premier League experience? Do you want the experience? Do you want someone who's ready now? Or do you want someone with that potential that might be a better long-term investment? We've got the long-term investment in Rasmus Højlund. I think we need now. But what would you be willing to spend on Ivan Toney? Let me know your thoughts and your comments in the chat. Mount was 24 years old, which obviously, you know, is a few years younger than Ivan Toney, which you can justify maybe paying a little bit more. It's a shame when it's worked out for Mount, because when I said before on the Onana and the Mount signings, like, I can tell you why I wanted him. I still think Mount's a top player. I still do. I just think he's made of glass, and that's something that we should have been looking at before we signed him. Because I think, I'm not the medical staff. I'm not the one that's investigating that player to make a transfer. I think quality-wise, he's a very good player. I just think, unfortunately, he's been ruled out basically the whole season through injuries, and at his age, that is something that's quite worrying. Let me have a look. A lot of you guys are saying 40 million max, 40 million max. I think you're dreaming if you're thinking 40 million for Ivan Toney. I think it's at least going to be 50. Is that something you'd be willing to spend on him as a striker? We've got a super chat in saying, would you consider Victor Roque? I spoke about Victor Roque before he went to Barcelona last year. I thought he looked promising, but obviously I've not seen him play loads, so I can't really comment that much on it. It'd be something that would interest me, but it isn't someone that I'd be at the forefront of my mind to bring in for Manchester United this summer. Patrick Lynch says, it's not a question about quality of skill, it's a question about quality of personality. For EG, I think Kane, not that we can get him, is more a collaborative striker than others. Interesting comment, Patrick. Honestly, we missed the boat not getting Harry Kane. We really did, but I don't think it was a deal that ever could have happened because of Daniel Levy. But he would have been. You know why Erik ten Hag would have wanted him. I mean, every manager would have wanted him. Pep Guardiola tried to get him before he got Erling Haaland. Let's remember that. But there's no point speaking about Kane, because that is been, gone. Ship has sank fully, and there's no resuscitating it. So there's no point speaking about it. 40 million or walk, says Mano. Xerxes is 40 million. I seen a report last night that Xerxes could have a release clause of around 40 million, and I don't know how true it is, but if that's the case, that's something that's massively interesting as well. Another risk. Where Manchester United are at now, nearly every signing's a risk, because we've been so poor in recruitment for so long. Like, these signings have to pay off. The striker we bring in to compete with Rasmus and be a rotational option for Rasmus, and when I say rotational, I don't mean like a B player, I mean like genuinely compete, has to work out. It has to, because Manchester United have had so many misses. So Man United have got to be really careful in terms of what profile they go for and who they decide to go and spend that money on. And I think we do have to do things on a budget this summer, but when you're looking at a striker, I think Man United will spend at least around 40, 50 million on a striker this summer. But let's see what happens. And sometimes it is worth spending that little bit of extra money to make sure you're getting somebody that is proper good quality, that's going to be able to come in and work now. Because Man United need players that can work now. But that is the talk on Ivan Toney. Get in the comments down below what you think. A lot of people saying he will also want massive wages. I mean, why? He'll want decent wages, of course he will. He's coming to Manchester United, but do you think Spurs are going to offer him massive wages? Chelsea will probably offer him big wages, to be fair, if Chelsea can go for him. But I think Manchester United now are going to get a handle on things, hopefully, in terms of the wages. And I think if someone offered him a move away from Brentford to a bigger club, he's not going to turn it down, because we won't give him like 250 grand a week. I think he'd be very happy with a wage increase and to get that move to elevate his career. It just depends on how Manchester United handle the transfers, to be honest with you. Neil Evans says Toney won't work, I bet you. Don't speak about betting around Ivan Toney. Anyway, next up on the agenda is Thomas Tuchel. So the Thomas Tuchel story over the last 24 hours, honestly, to me, it just screams Tuchel really wants a move in the Premier League, and his entourage around him is trying to push that, to be honest with you, because quite a few different journalists have put out stuff on Thomas Tuchel within the last 24 hours. So it started off with Fabrizio Romano this morning saying Thomas Tuchel, linked with Manchester United, has chosen to leave Bayern Munich at the end of the season with no agreement being reached. So it looks like Bayern Munich, after trying to get every manager under the sun and failing, had U-turned on the Thomas Tuchel decision and was trying to get him to stay. But Romano put out there that Thomas Tuchel has decided to leave Bayern at the end of the season. It's like a situation where, I mean, we were speaking about this before the show. Say if you break up with your partner and then you realise, actually, you know what, all my other options, they're really not as good as I thought they were going to be. Going to try and get my partner back now. If you're the partner, you're like, no. Like, you've literally gone round, tried to get with everybody else, and then when it's not worked out for you, you're coming back to me. You made your bed, lie in it. That's how it feels a little bit. But at the end of the day, Bayern Munich is still a very good job. If Tuchel was to kind of carry on with it, you could understand because of the amount of, obviously, one, it keeps you in a job, and two, it's a very prestigious club. But he's decided not to, and no agreement's been reached with Thomas Tuchel. He said, it's my last press conference. He's leaving Bayern Munich at the end of the season. Then, out comes from Christian Folk, Thomas Tuchel's management are in contact with Manchester United. And then I'm thinking, hang on a second, David Ornstein literally last night said that Man United don't have contact with Potter, Southgate or Thomas Tuchel. And that at the moment there's no concrete conversations or contact with any other manager apart from Erik ten Hag. So I'm like, somebody isn't telling the truth in this situation, or somebody has got the wrong information. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's David Ornstein. I think David Ornstein never. I don't think I've ever seen him get anything wrong. He's a top class journalist. Christian Folk, I think, is a good journalist, but I have seen him get stuff wrong before. Then the United stand understands that Manchester United are not currently in talks with Thomas Tuchel. It appears Tuchel's team may be trying to generate interest, which makes a lot of sense. Tuchel doesn't want to stay at Bayern Munich, but he also wants a job. He's spoken glowingly about the Premier League, how much he loves English football, how much he loved his time at Chelsea. Even when he was with Bayern Munich at Old Trafford in the Champions League earlier on this season, he was speaking glowingly about Old Trafford. It's no secret that Thomas Tuchel would want a move to the Premier League. So we're in a situation where Thomas Tuchel, I think personally, is pushing for a move to Manchester United, and his entourage are pushing for a move to Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano also put out a similar, and to me, it just kind of screamed, because Christian Folk and Romano put out similar reports, but Romano's didn't mention Manchester United by name. Let me get it up here. He tweets so often, it's hard to... Okay, here we go. So, Fabrizio Romano put out, Thomas Tuchel remains open to working for a new club next season after leaving Bayern Munich. He's always been open to experiences abroad. Also, Tuchel remains keen on working in England again. Tuchel feels ready for a new chapter immediately, so no need to recharge. That, to me, screams his agency or whoever runs his entourage has put that out there to a few journalists to get the word out. Tuchel doesn't want a break. Tuchel wants a new job, and he wants it in England. But Christian Folks obviously use Manchester United because I feel like he's probably got the same brief, and maybe briefed a few of the German journalists. He's got the same brief, but a lot of people put Manchester United in their reports because it generates clicks, it generates views, and there's always a lot of rumours about Manchester United, especially at the moment. We've been linked to Thomas Tuchel like there's no tomorrow, so you know that's going to get headlines, you know that's going to get people talking. So I do think that Thomas Tuchel would love the Manchester United job. Of course he would, he's made that very clear. I also think he'd love to have the Chelsea job back again. Like, I think he wants a job in England. That's what he wants. But I don't think Manchester United are in contact with Thomas Tuchel. They may well be after the Champions League, not the Champions League, I wish it was the Champions League. They may well be after the FA Cup final. They may well be. There's no decision been made yet on Erik ten Hag. But my personal opinion as of now is I think INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are looking to stick with Erik ten Hag to next season. And I think they will. And I hope they will. But Thomas Tuchel obviously knows that Erik ten Hag's job isn't the safest right now. There's a lot of gossip everywhere that Manchester United manager job might be on the table for a few managers. He's getting his name out there, he's getting the word out there. That's all I think it is at the moment. So if Ten Hag did get sacked, I definitely think Tuchel is a likely candidate to come in as manager. But I don't think actively, as As of now, Manchester United, INEOS or anyone there is going to Thomas Tuchel saying, yeah, do you want the Manchester United job? Like, are you interested in it? We can get this set up. I don't think there's conversations happening right as of now. I think it's Erik Ten Hag's job to lose, and I do think we'll stick with Ten Hag. That's the feeling I'm getting this week. But it changes regularly. I just think this is Thomas Tuchel wanting to push his name out there for a job. But the other thing is, the only other thing I thought when this news came out was, you're not guaranteed a job, you know, in England, and Bayern Munich were going to have you for another season. Like, to turn down that opportunity, has he had assurances elsewhere that he's going to be able to get another very good job? Like, has he, or has he just taken that risk and thought, I'm going to leave and hopefully I'll get a job with quite a few jobs out there on the market. Obviously, the Barcelona job's out there on the market now. Xavi will be leaving Barcelona. You know, the Manchester United job potentially could be out there, but I don't think it will be. The Chelsea job has been spoken about. Maybe he's just decided to take that risk. But get in the comments down below what you think. A lot of people, I keep seeing people say Watkins in the chat. Guys, I wish I could work miracles. I wish I could, but the fact of the matter is there's absolutely no chance on this earth that Manchester United get Ollie Watkins in. I would love to see Ollie Watkins in a United shirt. I think it's absolutely top quality. But first of all, I think the reason why Ollie Watkins is doing super well at Villa, and I'm not taking anything away from Ollie Watkins, he's obviously developed himself and he's been working hard and he's doing excellently well. I think a big reason is a lot of times, you know, players develop through partnerships. His partnership with Unai Emery, I think Unai Emery is just absolutely taking him to the next level. And Ollie Watkins will know that. He's spoken so glowingly about him before. They've also just got into Champions League football. Man United are not going to be in the Champions League. And plus his contracts, like, he's going to cost so much money anyway. First of all, I don't think he'd want to leave the current project he's on because he's doing so well under Unai Emery and they're about to play Champions League football. But also, even if he did want to leave, Villa would want absolutely stupid money for him. Rightly so, because he's doing so well in his career and he's at a good age and he's Premier League proven striker and he's English. So there's just no way in hell that that Manchester United will be getting Ollie Watkins this summer. It's just, we can't afford it. And I also think, I don't think he'd want to come to Manchester United right now in the situation that we're in, to be honest with you. But anyway, a last few things on the show. So, couple of things I wanted to just get a little bit of clarification on. So SAMC reports also put out that United Stand understands that Manchester United have had discussions in recent weeks about Olise and are quietly confident, but nothing is concluded yet. Michael Olise, Manchester United are quietly confident that they're going to be able to get this deal over the line. We've heard rumours about it for months. Michael Olise is definitely a player that I think Manchester United will move for as the season ends and as the transfer window opens. Keep your eye on that. I do think we get him. Unless a club that's better than us come in for him as well, because he's got that release clause there. Also, it was coming out from SAMC reports that the United Stand understands that inside Manchester United recently, it has felt like the club has been more united and are all fighting for the same cause. They think it's going to be Sir Jim's way and that's the end of it. So take what you want from that. I think things switch so quickly in football. I mean, the other week, players were down in tools after Palace and it felt like it was over. Then the Newcastle game, now it's Sir Jim's way or no way and everyone's united. I think take things with a pinch of salt sometimes. And I mean, I hope that is the case. I really hope that is the case. And the main thing is that players realise you can't get another manager sacked again. We're going to have to pull together and you're either going to have to shape up or leave the football club. And that's the way things need to be. We need to have a manager that is completely in charge. And that brings me on to a quote from the 99 documentary on Amazon Prime that I'm just going to kind of leave you with. And it is Ryan Giggs in the 99 documentary. The training was harder than the games under Sir Alex Ferguson. It was just the dynamic of the team. It was a tough environment. Read it and weep. Read it and weep, everyone. Again, Ryan Giggs. The training was harder than the games under Sir Alex. It was just the dynamic of the team. It was a tough environment. So, everybody that's been saying, Erik Ten Hag's training's too hard. Erik Ten Hag's the reason why Manchester United have all these injuries this year. His training's too hard. That Brazilian report that came out, training's too hard. Training's the reason that players are getting injured. All the Twitter experts talking about how Erik ten Hag's training intensity must be too hard. You've got Ryan Giggs, who is one of the best Premier League wingers of all time and has won everything there is to win with Manchester United, talking about how the training was harder than the games under Sir Alex Ferguson. So it's just, we need to stop this narrative that Erik ten Hag's training's too hard. Erik ten Hag is, I feel like, trying to elevate the physicality of this squad because I don't think it's physical enough. I don't think the fitness was there. Rangnick even, you could see it when Rangnick came in. When Rangnick came in, he tried playing his style of football for 45 minutes against Crystal Palace and even openly said he realised he couldn't do it with the set of players he had. The physicality just wasn't there. It's another thing we need to be doing in recruitment, recruiting physically capable players. Injuries have been an issue this year, but Erik ten Hag's been managing way longer before Manchester United. He's never had an injury crisis like this in his career. So he's not suddenly just decided, to torture players in training and injure them all. Like, I think there's so many different reasons. First of all, I don't think the squad's fit enough. Second of all, I don't think we've recruited players that are capable enough physically. And third of all, I think our medical department needs a massive, massive investigation and clear out. We need the best of the best in the medical department. I think there's a lot of reasons to it, but people are just so quick to blame Erik ten Hag's training because they probably just don't like Erik ten Hag and don't want him to be the manager. So automatically it's Erik ten Hag's fault that all these players are injured and his training's too hard. And for anyone who's leaking to the press inside the dressing room that Erik ten Hag's training is concerning to players, that it's too hard. Again, excuses. Do you think the players in the 99 documentary are coming out saying, oh, you know what, this training's really too hard? You're at Manchester United. You're at Manchester United. There is no excuses. Training's going to be hard. You're getting paid a lot of money per week. Like, this is the levels. This is what you have to sacrifice to be a top level athlete. So for me, that just says a lot, and I'm so glad that that came out in the documentary, and people need to take note of that. Another one was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He said players who came in struggled to get the best out of themselves and could live up to the standards of 1, the gaffer, and 2, Roy Keane, and 3, the rest of us. So just speaking about standards there. First of all, Sir Alex Ferguson's standards were up here. Steve McLaren spoke about when they won the treble and they were out partying all night, and he said to Steve McLaren, at the cliff, 9 a.m. I want to see you there. Like, these were the standards that Sir Alex Ferguson always had. Like, everyone always said, like, you'd go past his office and the light would always be on, whether it'd be 6 in the morning, whether it'd be 11 at night. Like, that was Sir Alex Ferguson. His standards were super high. Also, and this is something that I think is massively missing at Manchester United, there was leaders all throughout that dressing room with extremely high standards. Obviously, Roy Keane was the captain and he was the standout. And by the way, I do think Bruno Fernandes has standards and I think he's a good captain. But past that, you struggle to see the true leaders in that squad. Really, you do, don't you? I think Lisandro Martinez is definitely one that Erik ten Hag's spoken about. But we are missing true leadership in that dressing room. You need a whole team of captains. So I think the standards is something that has been missing at Manchester United for a long time and something that we really need to focus on getting back to. But everyone, that is the show. That is the show today. We had the Tuchel news. Wouldn't read too much into it, to be honest. I think we just got to keep backing Erik ten Hag till the end of the season and see what decision INEOS decide to make. I hope they decide to stick with ten Hag, and I have a feeling that they will do. On the Ivan Toney and Sesko thing, music to my ears. You guys know how much of a fan I am on Ivan Toney, and just to finish them votes, 49% of you said Ivan Toney, 34% of you said Sesko, and 17% of you said other. And then lastly, on the 99 documentary, go and watch it. We've got a weekend. Go and relive the good days, and I'm going to watch it tonight, and hopefully I'll get inspired, and hopefully it'll give me some hope going into the pre-season. I'm not saying we're going to get back to them days straight away, but the report that Sam put out about Sir Jim kind of putting his mark on the club, my way or no way, and basically trying to set them standards, it's something that we can take some positivity with going into our weekend. And final game of the season on Sunday as well. Final game of the season. Ricky will be back. against Brighton away from home. Not got much to play for, but what we are playing for is some good form going into the FA Cup. And what I am excited to see in that game is I think you'll see what team, it'll give us some clues into what team Erik ten Hag is going to go with for the final, which is, you know, the biggest game of our season. It's going to be absolutely huge. But look, everyone, have a lovely, lovely Friday. It'll be Mark's 8 p.m. show back tonight. Friday night show is always good. I'll probably be tuning in, actually, you know, because I don't think I've got much on tonight, so I might be tuning in the chat. Everyone hit a like on the video on your way out as well. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you back on the United Stand on Sunday for all the build-up, all the forums. I'll see you on the next one, everyone.